Visit Gestorino.com for a selection of the latest and greatest Beyblade products. Beyblade X has loads of parts, and it can be a little overwhelming to try and find out if a combo is competitively viable. So, as you will have probably seen from the title, I've put together a handy guide for building competitive combos. But before we get started, here are some general things to consider. Bits affect how the bay will move in the stadium and are just as important as the blade itself, and will generally decide the overall type of your combo. And every type has strong and weak matchups, kind of like rock, paper, scissors. Attack can overpower stamina types, stamina can outspin defense types, defense can resist attackers, and balance types have the ability to go toe-to-toe with all the other types. However, this isn't set in stone, as you can beat any type of bay with any other type of bay given the right build and launch. And taller height ratchets trade away stamina for extra weight and raising the contact points of the blade, as well as also possibly being a bit more tight as well on the actual blade itself. Just be aware of the increased risk of upper attackers, as you are more exposed the higher you are. And finally, non-meta builds are still viable and get wins all the time, but the parts that are meta for a reason. So if you want to absolutely maximize your chances of winning, you're going to want to use the most popular builds. That being said, nothing is set in stone. Even the most popular builds like Wand Wizard 160 Hexa and Cobalt Dragoon 560 Elevate do see variations in tournament winning decks, so ultimately it's up to you to experiment and see what works for you and your blading style. Starting off, for the attack builds, when in doubt, use Rush and Low Rush. They've proven themselves to be the most popular choice of attack bit in tournament winning decks because they pack a big punch while still having a decent amount of stamina. But other attack bits are still netting tournament wins all the time. The Flat family of bits trade some of the stamina of Rush and Low Rush for extra firepower, but are very similar to them in shape and how you launch them. And although gear bits such as Gear Flat and Gear Rush are chaotic fun and have seen some very limited tournament success, they're just too prone to self-KO in my opinion, and they don't really do anything that the other more reliable attack bits do. It's a similar story for Quake, which is a lot of fun and packs a real punch, but it's just not consistent enough to see competitive use. Whereas Axel and Rubber Axel are a popular line of attack bits with many tournament wins under their belt, though they are tricky to use effectively, with Rubber Axel especially chewing through stamina, but if you can master these bits, you'll be able to pull off some incredible knockouts. And although not seeing loads of tournament wins, the Cyclone and Vortex bits are both still viable choices. They're higher skill level bits that don't have particularly great endurance, but can seriously bring the power on the right launch. And another widely used and competitively viable attack bit is Level, although this almost feels like a balance type, as it allows you to access a variety of tactics that the other attack bits do not. It's not got the raw strength of the other attack bits, but it's got a surprising amount of late game stamina and works great on a tilt launch for some ratchet sniping if you can master it. And finally, we've got Turbo. I would advise using this ratchet integrated bit if you're trying to get a good laugh out of your opponent and throw away the match. It is competitive in no sense whatsoever, so ending on that wet fart of a part, let's move on to the ratchet selection. Now for attack builds, you've got a lot of options depending on how you want to tweak your bay's performance. 450 and occasionally 455 ratchets do see wins on attack builds, taking advantage of the lowered height to hit their opponent where it hurts, and you can feel free to experiment with various other 4-sided and 2-sided ratchets, but in terms of competitive attack deck building, send them straight to the Shadow Realm. And the consistently well-performing 160 and 170 ratchet, and to a lesser extent the 180, will provide an imbalance to your build, which theoretically should help to escape pockets and hit that little bit harder as well. Whereas the 360s and less popular but still viable 370s and occasionally 380s are far more balanced for attack builds, however they might just hit that little bit less hard. 560 ratchets are also balanced and a bit heavier, although some people have reported bursting more with 560s, so just bear that in mind for your combos. 570s and 580s do pop up in tournament data very occasionally, but in general there's better options for these. And the 760 and 770 ratchet are perfect for buffing your bay's weight up a bit, although again there's been reports of bursting issues on some of these ratchets, and they are a little more exposed than some of the other ones, so beware of catching it on the X-rail or getting attacked from underneath. And as far as I've been paying attention to the meta, I've never seen a 780 take a win, but I'm also a sponge-brained goofball, so I may well have missed an odd win here and there. But there's no escaping the 960 ratchets. They are perfect for high recoil attack builds that don't need the extra weight like Shark Scale and Hover Wyvern, appearing consistently in tournament data and due to the burst resistance of the 9-sided ratchet. If you want a higher height attacker, 970 and 980 are both solid choices for their respective heights. And although 0-sided ratchets don't see a lot of play in attack builds and are susceptible to upper attackers, you can still give them a go to see if they work for you, but personally I feel there are better choices and it comes with a significant amount of risk. And moving on to the blades now, Shark Scale has set the gold standard for upper attack blades and attack types in general since its release. It has a super low profile so it can get underneath almost anything with the right build and launch, plus it's pretty aerodynamic and as such has a decent amount of endurance as well. Whereas Blast, Saw Phoenix and Aero Pegasus are all smash attackers designed to deliver powerful blows whilst conserving stamina. And then Dran Buster is a one-hit KO glass cannon attack type that still sees tournament wins even to this day. It's got a large imbalance in the blade, causing it to have a very low stamina, so you want to get in fast and win with that one. And Tyranno Beat kind of has a bit of a blended type, so it's kind of a bit of an all-rounder in that sense. And you've also got barrage attackers. These blades don't really see much competitive use outside of Cobalt Dragoon, as they kind of lack the punch of the other attack types. But there are also many popular and well-performing non-attack types that are used on attack builds, most notably Hover Wyvern, which is originally a defense type, but it sees far more use on attack builds due to its powerful recoil and ability to escape pockets. And Wand Wizard is another popular non-attack type blade that has seen many wins on attack builds, as it has a tremendous amount of stamina and recoil as well. But there's so many different stamina, defense and balance type blades that have seen wins on attack builds in the last few months, such as Scorpio Spear, Nightmail and Samurai Caliber. These blades have a higher skill ceiling and will require you to really learn how they work and practice with them to get the most out of these sorts of builds, but if you can master them, they're definitely competitively viable. And finally, before we move on to balance type combos, I want to talk about left spinners. Cobalt Dragoon on 760 flat and on various builds using the level bit have both won tournaments in recent months, plus with Meteor Dragoon's release in the very near future, so it stands to reason that everything I've just said about choosing an attack combo also applies to left spinners as well. But now we're moving on to balance type combos, and I'm going to save you some time talking about the ratchets because it's the exact same as the attack types, so if you really need a refresher, just go back and watch that part of this video again. Because it's time to talk about balance bits. Starting off with the kick bit, this has been the dominant balance bit with loads of wins on all kinds of blades since its release. It's got great stamina, defensive and offensive potential, allowing you to adapt your tactics to whatever your opponent throws at you. And trans kick is not as popular a choice in the meta, but it's still got some wins and allows you to switch from what is essentially a low and high kick bit. And similar to kick, there's the less aggressive taper and high taper bits. Although not as prominent in the meta right now, they still do pop up from time to time and are a solid choice for balance combos. Just mind your launch with these bits, as you can easily end up in an ineffectual spiral of doom. Oh no! And then there's Unite, which is again similar to the taper and kick family of bits, albeit a far more aggressive and as such a higher skill leveled bit to master. And it isn't a popular choice in the competitive setting, although this bit is still a viable choice for balance builds, appearing consistently in tournament winning decks even to this day. And moving on to the more reactive balance type bits, Point is the bit you pick when you want to go from standstill to super speed in the blink of an eye. Although this bit might not be as popular as it once was, it does see the occasional tournament win from time to time, and you can give Transpoint and Gear Point a go if you like, but will most likely struggle in a competitive setting, as Point itself has struggled to keep up with the evolving meta. But if Point and Excel got in a teleporter accident, you'd get Zap. This is a high skill level bit that has some serious offensive potential as well as a surprising amount of stamina if you can pull off the right kind of launch. It gets the occasional competitive win, but if you're going to use this, you've got to lock in because it's a very niche bit. Whereas one of the most ubiquitous parts in Beyblade X right now is the Elevate bit, which is almost exclusively used on the left spinning Cobalt Dragoon, as it can spin steal from other bays and would probably see more use if it were not for the high burst risk that this bit has, although it does see some fringe use on right spinners such as Scorpio Spear as well. And the merge bit is a lot of fun to use, but its height and the unpredictability of its movements prevent it from being viable in the meta. And the ratchet integrated bit Operate has the ability to switch between an attack mode and a stamina/defense mode, and adds a hefty weight to any combo. The ability to switch up tactics on the go depending on who you're up against is a cool idea, and it definitely works more consistently than Turbo, but ultimately the high burst risk of this part means that you'll need to find a way of dealing with the top attackers and ratchet snipers in the meta. But hey, especially if multiple people can win tournaments with Clock Mirage, then burst risk is clearly not a deal breaker for some bladers. And the final balance bit before we get into the best blades for balance type builds, we've got Hexa, which is technically a balance bit, although in reality it's really just used as a defense type. So I'll cover that and everything else you need to know about stamina and defense combo building in part 2. So if you found this video useful, please consider dropping it a like and subscribing to the channel. And even if you only run balance or attack type decks, you should still check out part 2 because it will help you know your enemy, which is an essential part of any victory over another. But enough battle philosophy, let's talk about balance blades. Starting off with Eclipse, this is one of the heaviest blades on the scene and has popped up plenty of times in silver and bronze position decks. However, I haven't actually seen a tournament winning deck use this blade yet. Whereas Emperor Might, Samurai Caliber and Scorpio Spear are all viable balance type blade choices, but are often not run on balance type bits in tournament winning decks. There's of course the current big four of Sharkscale, Wand Wizard, Hoverwyvern and Blast, all of which have proven wins on a variety of balance builds, and these can make a whole range of different heights and bits work. And there's been plenty of success from Saw Phoenix, Golem Rock and Aero Pegasus, if you're lucky enough. I'm not salty, I am not salty, but the list goes on, and you can really let loose and experiment with balance types. Silverwolf on 770 points sounds so bizarre, but when used correctly, it's a really effective balance type, able to tank hits and dish them out as well. So really, anything can be a decent balance blade if you try hard enough, although some definitely have an advantage over others. But I'd like to know, what type of blader are you, and what's your favourite part and why? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.